I tell the sales staff, I tell all our employees, you have a unique platform. You are in and of yourself. The way that you influence the people around you, it's all unique to yourself. And we need to use that. You need to use that for your business. The sales side of the car business, I've always thought that the advertising that the dealership does, it helps sell the first car. Then a good experience with a good salesman, you sell cars 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and 8. And so I think social media does that, but it's an amplifier.
Today, I'm excited to speak with Ryan Rohrman, CEO of Rohrman Auto Group and third-generation owner of the 23-store Midwest outfit who turned his traditional dealer group into a TikTok famous powerhouse. We discuss how he's tackling dealership marketing and leveraging data to sell more cars and improve the car shopping experience. A big thank you to our sponsors for making today's episode possible: Cars Commerce, TransUnion, and CDK Global. And now let's get into the show. Ryan Rohrman on the CDG podcast. Ryan, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I'm super excited to be on the car dealership guy. I've been watching you for a while now, so thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Dude, I'm excited to speak with a TikTok superstar over here.
Yeah, right.
I saw you guys had a video on TikTok with like 4.4 million views. I mean, you've been crushing it.
Yeah, it has been a wild journey to see the power of social media. And, we're at all different levels, inside the auto group of different directors and GMs, utilizing it to try to move our brand forward and what we do. And it's super cool when something just takes off, and it's wild.
And we'll talk a ton about media today as well and how you use it at your stores. But one question I do have before we even kick off is, you're sort of, we had a sidebar prior to starting to record, and I feel like you're sort of the anti-millennial here, in the sense that you mentioned you don't have a Facebook, you really are only LinkedIn. You sort of went 0 to 100 on the social media game, and I'm just curious to know what drove that for you. Why do that, right? For someone that is so stark on the other end of not even being on social, and having the dealer group now get so invested into social, what has been the impetus for that for you?
Yeah, I think it's a couple things. So, first off, I've always had a fear of social media, of having my, let's say, quote unquote, like personal life be out and about. So I've always just I don't flirt with that gray area in much things. And that's how we operate the auto business as well. Is I don't like the gray. It's either wrong or it's right, and we want to go down that route. So with me, it's always like, well, if I don't really want my personal life out there, just don't do it. And so, when Facebook first came out, I was in college, and you had to have a .edu email to have it. And so I had it for a little bit, and it was just for meeting people, right? But then soon my parents joined and everything else. So that's when I got off, and I never really got back on. So, I think one of my so every single year inside the Rohrman Auto Group, we have this really cool banquet we call the Infinite Pursuit banquet. And so the Infinite Pursuit's a program that I created over the last few years, and it's KPIs for doing things. And so there's always a little bit of a talking head session in this banquet. And for 2024, it was Own It. And so in everything we do this year, we wanted to own it. And so I walked a little bit through like what that looked like, what that meant. And one of the things was social media and owning our platforms. And so I really, I guess my leadership style is I never like to ask people to do something that I wouldn't do or can't do myself. And so that was one of my things that I feel like I had to own too, is if I'm going to ask everyone else to go and, hey, use your platform, you have a platform, you have a voice, find it, you get out there, and so I couldn't ask my staff and folks to do that if I wasn't doing it as well. So that was some of it. I also had some really, some of my director team that's close to me, they're like, Ryan, you got to do this. You got it. And they've been telling me this for years. So it just was like a combination of all these things. And Yeah, we jumped in, and it's been awesome.
You're doing a good job at it, and I see you're telling stories. Stories works really well on social, builds strong engagement. We'll break that apart as well shortly. I want to take a quick step back to just have you share some context on yourself, your group. How did you get into the business? Tell us a little bit about the Roman Auto Group. Give us that. Give us that background.
Sure. So the Roman Auto Group is I'm a third gen dealer. My grandfather, he got into the car business in 1963. That's when he opened up his first used car lot in Lafayette, Indiana. And so we're still based out of Lafayette, Indiana. And the first new car franchise was Toyota in 1968. And then he just mainly, Honda was a few years later. The oil embargoes of the 70s were a blessing to him. And when all the big boats of the domestic vehicles stopped selling, the little Japanese cars did really well. And so he just exploded from there. So from 1968 to really the mid 90s, he grew from nothing to, I think he was right shy of 40 new car franchises in the late 90s. So just complete growth. He did it all solo, never had a partner. He never went outside funding. He just was a hard worker, and he loved the car business. And so my dad is his oldest. My grandfather has five kids, and my dad worked for him in Lafayette for many years. And then he went out on his own, and my dad had used car buy here, pay here lots. So I grew up doing that. And by the time I turned 21, I had worked in a body shop. I had turned wrenches for 2 years, and I had sold cars on a used car lot. So by the time I was 21, I thought at that time that I did not want to be in the car business anymore. And so I was a biochem major in a small school in St. Paul, Minnesota, called Bethel University. They still do have a great bio program. So I did that until my grandfather got a hold of me, and he was all over me. He would call me weekly, multiple times, and Ryan, you got to come sell cars for me. You got to come sell cars for me. And I'd tell him the same thing every time. Grandpa, I've done that for the last 5 years. I don't think it's what I want to do. I'm following this biochem program, and I probably should be looking for some jobs that more line up with that. And he got to the point where I stopped answering my cell phone. And when I was in college, we still had the phones with the cords on the wall. All right. And we never used it. But one night it started ringing, and my roommate picked it up, and he goes, "Ryan, it's your grandpa." And so I took it, and I was like, "Grandpa?" And he goes, "Hey, is your cell phone broken?" I said, "No." And he goes, "Oh, what?"
Get your ass to work.
Yeah. He goes, "So you don't come work for me or what?" And at that time I was like, "Okay, fine. I'll try it."
So he was persistent.
He was persistent.
Love that.
Yes. And so 2005, I went and worked for him for the first time in the new car franchise. So my experience up until that point was always used car lots and service stations and smaller body shops. So so I never experienced a new car franchise. And a new car franchise is so different than the used car independents and whatnot. It's just, it couldn't be a different business model, where all you care about.
What were the starkest differences for you going from used to new? By the way, I have a ton of people that reach out to me that are on the used side and are maybe looking into an opportunity on a new side, thinking about it, whatever. But what was the starkest differences for you?
The starkest difference really is what you focus on. So like, I love the business strategy of the new car franchise. You just don't get that inside of used cars. In the standalone used car lot, you're putting your efforts into acquiring cars all the time and exiting those cars all the time. Like, that's what you do. It's asset acquirement, and then it's let it go. let it find a home, whether you're retailing it or wholesaling it. And then it's just kind of, what can I make in between of things, right? Where you have that in the new car franchise business model for sure. During the pandemic, that was a huge piece of it. But you also have three other businesses that you get to run at the same time. You get your new car business silo, you get your parts business silo, and you get your service business silo, all of which are unique to a new car franchise. Sure, you can have a shop on the side of a used car operation. You would never compare that to a service drive at a new car OEM if you're a decent sized dealer. They don't compare. So
When you say they don't compare, are you just saying like, economically the opportunity, or
well, it's not even the opportunity. It's what that new car franchise gives you the opportunity to do that being independent you just can't do. I.e., warranty work. Like so much of your income, and you don't want to depend on it, but it's still gonna come, right? You can capture all the warranty work that that the manufacturer wants to put out. So like that's there. You also have the fact that when you sell let's just use like a Honda store for an example. When you sell a new Honda, you have the ability, if you do things right, to capture that Honda customer back into your drive as a service customer for a lifetime, and it's I would never say that's easy to do, but it's extremely hard to do if I sell a Chevy out of a Honda store, and so take that example now to a used car lot. I'm selling used cars, all brands, and do I want to keep them in my shop? Yes, I do. How? Like what's the retention of driving back off-brand OEMs into an industry?
you're in constant customer acquisition mode on the used side?
You're always
Retention is clearly, it's much lower than the new side.
Yeah.
And so your lifetime value of that customer is just naturally also going to be lower.
That's right.
Or the average customer.
Yeah. So I just think inside of the strategy and then marrying all that stuff together, so and then I love talking about consumer experience. I think consumer experience has been overlooked for many years in automotive, and the dealers that are winning today are providing a consumer experience that is unique and not what it was 5, 10, 15 years ago. And so
what are you doing on that front specifically?
we do a lot of stuff. I think number one, it's data and technology. And so I think, in talking to consumers, talking to our really good customers, we ask them, like, what could make this better? And so I think the two big buzzwords. So when I do my social media posts, I shouldn't say always, but I almost always ask a question at the end of my post. And I do that because I'm really curious on what everyone's answers are to that question. And I learn a ton from, some people, terrible answers, and then others that are actually great. And so the two things that the customer base that we've talked to really want is time. So timeliness, how fast can I get in and out, and convenience. Like people want an efficient use of their time that's convenient to them. And so we tried to take that information and go out and find different tech stacks that let us do that with the customer. And then it's training the next thing is a lot of dealerships might have similar tech stacks to us, but then do they use it? So, it's like anything else. You could have the best toolbox in the world, but if you choose not to use some of the tools in it, it's just another toolbox, right? So
this episode is brought to you by Cars Commerce, the platform to simplify everything about buying and selling cars, including the quote-unquote follow-up. Let me explain. Dealers, fast and effective follow-up is crucial for converting leads into customers. But here's the problem. 40% of shoppers report that they are not getting timely or helpful responses from dealerships. This is a huge problem because your own team could be leaving 4 out of every 10 sales opportunities on the table. Cars Commerce makes it simple to measure and improve your follow-up performance. A Cars.com experience report tracks the percentage of leads your team is responding to and how customers rate those responses. While Dealer Inspire's retailing technology enables your team to quickly text follow-ups with personalized financing options to make the most out of every opportunity. To learn more about how you can measure and improve your team's follow-up performance, go to carscommerce.inc/experience or click the link in the show notes below. Can you break down two things very tactically for a second, right? You say you ask your customers questions. Like, what does that really mean, right? Are you sending out a monthly email, a weekly, 7 days after sale? Like, be very specific if you can. And then I'll follow that up with another question. Go ahead.
So we do it in multiple ways. So we, I think when you've been around as long as, we have, it's easy to get to know a certain amount of our customer base. That's just, they've bought 7 to 15 cars from us. We know them on a first name basis. So
lifetime customers.
That's just a conversation. It's, like I run into them sometimes and.
Okay. So that's anecdotal. That's
yes.
Literally like, hey, like word on the street, let me just go ask people, which is, it's great. It's a great way of just getting that, boots on the ground data.
Yeah. So we do that. And that happens quite a bit because I live in a small town community. So I run into people quite a bit. And that's the number one question. I was like, how could it have been better? Because they're like, Ryan, it was great. And I'll say, awesome. Thank you so much, for buying another car from us. How could it have been better? And sometimes I don't get much back. And other times, it almost always comes down to time and convenience. So I will say that. So other ways to answer your question. We are all over Google. So I have 2 people whose main jobs, they run Roman. We have this well, it's not a company. It's a sub company called Roman Cares, and Roman Cares. It's all about talking to our customer base. So all our phone bridges, if you hit 5, it'll take you to a Roman Cares person, and those 2 folks don't work in stores, and they have teams, and it's literally just to talk to our customers and to try to figure out how maybe where the experience went poorly and what we can do to make it better. And so we drive a ton of, we partnered really closely with rep.com. And so we utilize that dashboard to really try to ask questions on it and then utilize the responses back. So that's more the broadband, what we do. And then inside of each store, we do light surveying here and there. There is no rhyme or reason to when we do that type of surveying. It's just kind of, hey, I want to drive some more data. Let's ask these questions to some of our folks.
One thing from my experience, when in my prior company, we were raising venture capital, a big thing in the VC community in tech is, NPS, Net Promoter Score, which is a fancy term pretty much for like, would you recommend us to a friend? What I found though, and by the way, this is used in every business, but specifically the, tech world uses, very heavily. Anyways, what I found was that when you're trying to get customer feedback, it's so important not to lead the witness. Right? You really have to be thoughtful about how you word those questions. I'm not talking about the anecdotal stuff, which I love, right? Go on the floor, ask questions. That's amazing. But when you're doing it with the email, with it's how are you phrasing the questions? There's just no other way to actually improve if you're not extremely thoughtful about those questions. My recommendation is if someone's listening is like, hey, you know what? I want to redo our surveys or whatever. Number one, put a subject line that actually sounds like a human. Right? Not like we have 3 questions to ask you. Like, no, come on. Give me like some humanization, right? Hey, like, we know you were, like, thanks for like purchasing, but can we ask you one question? Just make it a little bit more human, but 2, be very specific about your questions, the responses, make it always multiple choice, make it easy for people. That's the best way I found to get feedback. Second question I wanted to ask you is you mentioned the word tech stack several times. And I think, our industry historically has, you're a dealer, you're in the business of going to an auction, buying cars, selling cars, servicing cars at your dealership, selling parts, right? Suddenly today, I have dealers on the podcast saying the words tech stack. which is a phrase that you didn't even hear in our industry a decade ago. Not that it didn't exist, but the point is that's how important tech is just to the day-to-day operating of every dealership. So when you say tech stack and you take pride in that and you think, you mentioned it's a big reason for your success, what does that mean to you? Like, what is your tech stack? Give us some specifics of what runs your dealership and makes it successful.
Yeah, so you have at all times, and you might have more than this, but there's two tech stacks that are really important. So you have an external tech stack and you have an internal. So what we've been talking about so far, I would classify as my internal tech stack. So that's how does it affect my customer experience as they start to communicate with the store? And so, that's, so I know how to answer your question, but let me start with this one. So here is what happens at many, many stores today. And honestly, some of my stores, and we train a ton on not having
respect for being candid like that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So the customer, whether it's a phone call or an internet lead or whatever, they get down my funnel on my website, and to the point where they can buy the car without coming in the store. But let's just say they get down my funnel to the point where they know what car they want, the color, the trim. Let's stop there. So they know what car they want. Okay. So now they come into the store. What happens next? This is huge. If you're talking about time, the most precious asset in the world today is time. It's the only thing we can't make more of. So if I greeted you and I treated you, because I know you're coming to see me, you made an appointment with me, right? So I have the ability to know that you picked out the car, the trim, and the color. So what's my next step? Is it to start you over, sit you down in my little cubicle, and to try to get you back to that same car trim? Or, because that happens all over the place all the time, every day without fail. Or is it, hey, Yossi, guess what? The car that we talked about, you don't even need to come inside. I already have it running out front. Let's just make sure you can put your hands on it. A lot of my customers, they choose not to drive cars today, but I have it ready to go if you want to drive it. But let's go and make sure that it's exactly what you wanted, right? So that is partially using the tech stacks that we have. Because now, what did I just save you? I saved you at least 20 to 30 minutes of your time from coming inside and sitting down and talking really about nothing, because I already know that you picked out the car. I already know you picked out the color. And so can I start there? Right. And so a lot of it today, what we train on. So we created our own LMS that we require all of our sales advisors, finance managers, sales managers.
Just for anyone that's not, you're referring to a learning management system, right?
Yes. It's a Roman Academy. We built it from scratch. So it's not, we didn't take someone's and add stuff to it. We shoot all our own original.
And by the way, just give us like a 5-second quick, I don't want to, you're in a train of thought, but how did you do that? How did you build an LMS?
So the easiest way to tell you how I did that is in 2018, I started a company. Roman owns it, but it's called Banyan. And Banyan Coaching, we have right now roughly about 18 members on that team. And I have probably on that team, I have 3 videographers. I have 2 or 3 content builders. I got web developers. And so when I say we built it, we built it.
Okay. So you actually have an external company in the team that specializes in this, and this is how you did it. All right.
Yep. And so, so we built that, and we add new content to it monthly. And then we do 3 to 4, we call it Roman Recharge, big events, where we will train we get to train every employee in the auto group over like a 2 to 3 week period of time. And so we'll create custom training sessions. We record it all and we can make clips of that for the LMS and whatnot. So, but inside of that, we talk about our tech stack slot so that the customer, so that that our salesperson back on track with what we're talking about can pick the consumer up on their journey, right? And so a big thing we talk about is not starting a customer's journey over, but picking it up where the customer choose to leave it at. So, because I would almost say that 90% of car dealerships that have a website today probably have a form of digital retailing. Now, what portion of that they use or how they use it, that's neither here or there. But the way we utilize it is, because we can, so tech stack now. So digital retailing tool. And you don't need to be married to one or the other. And you can't sometimes because the manufacturers will have a lot of input on that too. There's a lot of good ones out there that work, but it's what you can add to it. So, we've partnered with like CoVideo and we've partnered with iPacket. And it's really giving the consumer everything. We want our customers to know everything possible before they come into the dealership. And so that also helps them get down the funnel too. It doesn't slow them up as they're trying to shop for these cars. So, to the point of, if you felt comfortable buying a car in line, but you still want to test drive the car, you could get your payments, your financing all done. And we probably 15% of our new cars that we sell, they're being done this way, where the customer is greeted, or show them the car. Hey, is it everything you wanted and more? Yes. These are the numbers that you agreed to. We have this ready to go. Are you wanting to talk about anything else? Or are you ready to go in the finance office and finish it? And they're like, thank you. We're ready just to finish it. Phenomenal. Let's go. And so being able to do that, and that review is perfect every time when that is done well. It's just without.
Yeah, I mean, double entry plagues this industry. I just posted a stat from CDK about double entry, and it's still a huge issue. I've also had just operations with double entry, like physically. So it's a huge issue, and we've all done it, and it could save a lot of time. So I think you're putting the attention in the right place. I want to ask you a follow-up question to tech stack. Are you currently, you're investing in just a ton in your people, right? Again, you are progressive in the sense that you have like an LMS. I had Ziegler on the pod. They have Ziegler University. I think a lot of respect for dealer groups and just businesses that have been able to pull something like that off and really invest in that training to create a great culture, but great process and great customer experience ultimately. This episode is brought to you by TransUnion. Are you ready to transform the way you sell cars? TransUnion is here to help dealers deliver the seamless, personalized experience today's buyers demand. With reliable data and cutting-edge digital tools, TransUnion streamlines every interaction from verifying leads to boosting call answer rates. Did you know 90% of shoppers are more likely to pick up a call from a dealer they recognize? TransUnion's branded call display does exactly that, building trust and driving engagement. Shift your dealership into high gear. Visit transunion.com/car dealership guy or click the link in the show notes below. Again, that's transunion.com/car dealership guy to learn how TransUnion can help you create a secure and smooth car buying journey. What's your take on AI tools? Are you using any right now? Does it impact the need for actual humans in the dealership? What are you using? Give us like the full rundown. I see that smirk.
It's an interesting question because I'll be the first one to say I like AI. I'm fully embracing AI, and I know that is kind of it's a weird topic right now to talk about. I'm not afraid of AI replacing. So AI will replace jobs, but it's also going to create new opportunities for other jobs, and so that's how I'm embracing it. Like I still remember. When I was the general manager of a big Honda store in Chicago for about 6 years. And my grandfather would always tell me, if you want to sell 300 new cars a month, you need 30 salespeople. That's how you build a floor. You got to build it. Like it takes 10, he asked me, he goes, how many salespeople you got? I got 25. He goes, you won't sell more than 270 this month.
It doesn't pencil. It just doesn't pencil.
Right. And I don't agree with that. I think that maybe back then I agreed with it more. Today I don't. I think today, using the right tech stack and using AI as an assistant to salespeople, because I also believe that if you really are a car dealer who wants to try to give your consumer base a great experience, you also need a higher echelon of car people, of sales folks giving that. And I would question how good of experience someone is getting with someone who only sells 10 cars a month.
So you're saying something very practical, which is, hey, a little bit fewer salespeople, higher quality salespeople, because they're going to make more money, so you can afford better experience or better salespeople, and ultimately AI helps improve the customer experience. Everyone's happy.
Yes, 100%. You said it well.
And where does AI specifically improve the experience? Like, is it like pre-sale communication? Right? Is it in store, kind of connecting the thread with before? Where do you see the biggest opportunity for that, step function change?
Yeah, I think it's instant communication, and it's 24/7. So you have, everyone works different hours and they have different times where, hey, I'm up at 2:30 because I have a young child. I can't fall back to sleep. Let me shop for a car. Man, no one can answer my question. Not true. If I have the right tech stack, you can buy a car at 2:30 in the morning. So, and I can answer all your questions, even if it's not me doing it. And so I think AI, it's instant. You really cannot, for the most part, stump good AI. And I don't know if there's really true AI out there right now. Most of it's still machine learning, but there's good enough versions of it where the answer is very good. And so I think the ability to be on 24/7, and then the instant connection. So like how many times, because I know I do this, I send an email and then I refresh, like 30 seconds later looking for that response back, right? And man, if it comes back hours later, in my mind, I'm already moved on, where AI, it's going to give a better response back to your question than a human can, because think of all the emotions that a human being is going through at any given time. I'm a little tired today. I brought my home life in, so I'm kind of in a bad mood or whatever, right? And now I'm supposed to have a happy answer to this customer. It's hard managing that. And as you scale it, it doesn't get easier. With AI, you get the same response that answers the question, connects the dots, and then when it changes hands to that phenomenal salesperson, it just goes right back to what I said before. It's don't start over. Do your due diligence, read the transcript so hey, this customer, we've answered all their questions. Their question right now is, can I drive this car to their workplace so that they can look at it over their lunch break? And so that my transition into you is, hey, great news. I can actually meet you at your workplace today with the car that you're interested in. Can you send me that address just to reconfirm? Instead of start. And so just think about all the time saved now, right? For that excellent salesperson. They haven't, for all we know, the back and forth communications has been 7 to 10 emails, and that's rapport building to the point of now it's a professional handoff to let me finish and take this one home. So I think to answer your question, it's right at the beginning, and then it's long-term follow-up too. It's just really good, consistent, and it's not that same message, of checking in, how's your car? It's you can actually put some human sentiment, create something that goes out at X time and this time, and it lets you keep the engagement with the customer throughout the.
So you're interesting because you are a huge believer in AI. You're investing in AI. And yet, drum roll, you are about to open the largest Honda store in the world. Is that right?
Yeah, the largest on a score by square footage.
Yeah, of course. So you're investing in bricks while simultaneously you're investing in AI technology, which is likely going to reduce the in-store headcount. So like reconcile this for us. Are we talking service? What's driving this? Are we just talking about overall growth? Right? What has just tell us about this investment. I mean, it's pretty remarkable. You've shared some info. I've taken a look. Tell us a little bit more about it.
So this story is probably not as interesting as you might think. So my grandfather loved building big stores, loved it. So we have one of the largest Lexus stores in the country as well. It's not the largest, but it's 140,000 square feet in Chicago, and huge store. And really, it's way too big. He just liked building big stores. So he started this Honda store in like 2000. I think he started in like 2017, 2018, something like that. And then he passed away in 2020. And so I finished it. So if I had to go back and do it again, it would not be this grand, by any means. But it's 170,000. That's the answer, really, to your question.
Well, I mean, that response helps me reconcile it. So you kind of finished a store that was already in the works and already in the plans, but you're saying in theory, if you were doing one from scratch today, it would have been smaller, like physical size, physical footprint. Interesting that you say your grandfather really liked building big stores, because your grandfather, I clearly have never met your grandfather, but there's no doubt about it, given his accomplishments, that he's an extremely, shrewd operator. And I have to imagine that he believed that there was some intangible value to a physically just large store, whether it be, the appearance that you're doing business with something extremely formidable, everlasting, like, the best of the best. I don't know what it is, but I just have to imagine that it wasn't just, and by the way, it could have just been like a emotional thing, but I have to imagine there's also some driver behind the scenes where he's like, hey, this is this helps us stand out from the crowd. I don't know what it was, but just a thought.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, I think he just loved the grandioseness of these stores, and he was never a huge believer in the internet leads and all. I mean, it was for him, it's always your
different
brick and mortar lot, God forbid on your front line if you had an empty parking space, like that is the kiss of death, and it's like, it's because they're on a test drive. Well, you fill it in. You don't.
Or what if the cars aren't straight? What if the cars aren't straight? Did you have that one?
I remember one time my used car manager parked them all at an angle, and he flipped out. He goes, "You don't park cars at angles.
Oh my God!
It makes it look like you're going out of business, because when you park cars at an angle, you actually use more parking spots,
takes up more space,
and
correct.
So it makes you look like you're hurt for cash. Straighten them out." I'm just like, okay.
Oh my God, this is so good.
So
so good.
He was. I care. I do care. I mean, our lots need to look good, and the lights need to work, and we need clean facilities. But man, I am all about the virtual lot. The virtual lot is where it all starts, and that's, he was all about the brick and mortar, and he built stores that went along with his mindset for sure.
I feel like if you walk into a dealership, right? Like if I walk into a dealership today, you can look at 10 things and have a very solid assessment of how that dealership is ran, right? First of all, is the line outside organized, right? Go to the shop, show me the floor. I want to see how clean is the floor of the shop, just how organized. Show me the lot. Are there like weeds? Show me the signage. Are any light bulbs out? How long have they been out for? Has it been out for 2 hours, or has it been out for 2 weeks? Show me the bathroom. What does it smell like? Do all the toilets work? Are they clean? These are just basics, right? Show me the coffee machine. Open the Keurig, right? Is it like dry and crappy inside and moldy? I'm serious. Like, these are the details that I believe separate, it trickles throughout everything. And this is the stuff that this is how I was raised in the business, right? This you focus on the little things and they form into big things. I hope everyone here is like, I got to go check that coffee machine.
Whenever I train with my salespeople, I always tell them, you guys need to be cautious that you don't become desensitized to what you do for a living. And that's, you sell assets to people that are $30,000 to $60,000. And you do this every day. And if you're really good at it, you do it 20 to 30 times a month. Do you realize how many times someone buys a car in their lifetime? It's like 7 to 8 times in their lifetime. And you do it, some of you do it 3 times a month. Don't become desensitized to that experience. And I think that's what you're talking, like if someone walks into my store to buy a car and that's one of their 7 or 8 times in their lifetime that they're going to do it, the coffee machine better be perfect. The bathrooms better not smell bad. There shouldn't be trash everywhere, so on and so forth, right? The lights should all work. There shouldn't be odd smells coming through the dealership. And I don't know. I think everything you said, I am in complete alignment with. And I think it all comes down to people becoming desensitized. We're not selling smartphone cases, in the mall, right? We're selling the second most expensive thing that someone buys in their lifetime. And we need to make sure that we elevate the brick and mortar experience to meet that. And we'll say having a nice store, it does help. It doesn't need to be huge, but having an imaged store, it does help a lot. So
I agree with that. I'll give you another one. Are the streamers faded? Not are they ripped, are they faded? Got you. All right. So let's I love this topic because it's just the fundamentals that you just can't learn in school, or you got to learn it on the street, like doing the work. So that's why I love this stuff.
You'll like this story. Let me tell you one story. In early 2000s, I was selling new cars at this Honda store. It was a big store. We were selling 270 to 280 new cars a month and like 150 used cars a month. And every Saturday, without fail, we ballooned the whole showroom. So the ceilings were only like 11 feet tall. So legitimately, 30,000 square foot showroom, we'd probably do 150 balloons. So like you'd look across the showroom and you'd just see the balloons hanging on strings. And, Saturdays for us back in those days, we'd sell 30 cars a day or 35 cars a day. And by 5 or 6 o'clock in the afternoon, the kids who their parents were buying cars would have 15 to 30 balloons each just running around the showroom, and they'd be popping on the sprinkler heads or different things. And it was just, it was cool. I mean, popcorn machine was going off. It smelled like popcorn in there. And it's just, it's the school of how things used to be. And so it's fun.
This episode is brought to you by CDK Global, who will once again be streaming its annual industry conference, CDK Connect 2024, on October 22nd. This year's virtual Connect conference will feature CDK's latest product innovations, a keynote from CEO Brian MacDonald, and live breakout sessions focused across all operations of the dealership. You can register for CDK Connect at the link in our show notes below or by visiting cdk.com/connect. That's CONNECT, cdk.com/connect. I want to transition to media and how we touched on tech and AI. We touched on the grunt work of a dealership and the fundamentals. Now let's transition to marketing and exposure and distribution and getting your name out there. You were the first dealership to conduct the social media training with Russ Flips Whips. So context here, right? Russ Flips Whips is a car dealership guy, creator. He is on our team. And we launched a dealership social media training. Russ has amassed over 1 million followers. You were the first dealership to do this training with Russ. And I just want to touch on why you did that. What was the initial reason you even said, hey, like I want to make this investment? Again, you were someone that historically was not even on social media on a personal level, right? So pretty big shift in buy-in. But why did you do that? What was the net result of that? And then lastly, it'll be, what are things like today for you in your store? How do you leverage social media? Let's kind of take it one by one, Just start us with, why did you decide, hey, I want to train my team on social media, not sales training, not compliance training, not whatever training, but like social media 2024. Why do that?
Um, I, it's complicated. I mean, it's really straightforward, but it's complicated at the same time. So the easiest way I can answer that question is it's using your platform. We like, I tell the sales staff, I tell all our employees, you have a unique platform. You are in and of yourself the people you know, the way that you influence the people around you. It's all unique to yourself, and we need to use that. You need to use that for your business. Inside of the car, the sales side of the car business, I've always thought that the advertising that the dealership does, it helps sell the first car. Then a good experience with a good salesman, you sell cars 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and 8. And so I think social media does that, but it's an amplifier. Social media done well, you get so much back from it. And I can't do it for like what I'm trying to drive on my social media platform potentially is not the same result that a salesperson is trying to drive. And so I can't do it for them. And then, from an advertising standpoint, I can't reach the same people with the same message that someone can do personally, right? Because I think people are like the general public's getting tired or is tired of just mass marketing, in general, and so, hey, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, but you're unique. So do something fun with it. Do you know Honda Pro Jason by chance?
I do.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know him personally, but I know of him. Yes.
So he worked for me. So he sold cars when I ran the Honda store in Schaumburg. He sold cars for me, and he was an okay salesman, really knowledgeable Honda guy. And he started using his platform. He started doing things that he was really good at. He was an okay salesman. He was really good at learning tips and tricks on Hondas and doing these walkarounds, to the point where after he started doing it for 90 days, he goes, Ryan, I don't think I can sell cars anymore. And I was like, dude, don't go for it. Like, at this time, it was a grassroots movement still. This is probably 2011, 2012. And, I remember the first store in the Netherlands, they flew him out there for him to do something. And I was like, Jason, you're onto something. Go for it. Use your platform. And that's what he still does to this day, And so I don't think the goal is to create a bunch of these social media influencers that just leave us because they're so successful. But I also think that it is like, hey, continue to make your platform and use it so that you can grow outside of what the dealership can do for you, And I think Russ Flips Whips, I mean, what a great example of what that can look like. The best of my knowledge, I mean, he keeps growing, but he's still a very successful car salesman, selling a ton of Lincolns. I mean, I think he outsells the whole store, but
yeah, and he makes more money from media, but it's not about the money at this point. I mean, look, it's always about the money in the big picture, obviously, or that's a big reason. But the point is that car sales is so authentic to him. He actually enjoys it. It keeps him, grounded in, in the nitty gritty of the day to day of the business. Like, he loves it. Certain people don't as much, certain people do, but he loves selling cars. And for him, it goes hand in hand. It's that and, selling the vehicles, creating the content. The question is, you have some extremely progressive individuals on your team who are creating content and media on TikTok, on Instagram, getting themselves out there to build exposure for the dealership, themselves, and the brand. Do you think that the future of car sales is dominated by dealerships who all have these, niche micro influencers in their dealerships, whether they're homegrown or not? But the bottom line is, right, you said it yourself, traditional marketing is expensive. The ROI is, over the past decade, I mean, has just gone way down. You have some of the bigger operation or the bigger dealer groups in the country competing, on whatever you call it, AdWords, all these things. I mean, you're paying top dollar for these things. It's a pretty efficient market. And so the question is this the next frontier where dealerships literally it's a position? You have a title clerk, you have a F&I manager, and you have the influencer, right? Or is it just salespeople that are homegrown? How do you kind of view that evolution?
I do think that it's potentially the next big thing. It's kind of already happening right now, but I think the next level that we haven't, at least I haven't seen yet. I mean, this could be happening in other markets, but I haven't seen yet is more people like Russ Flips Whips. Where it's, I see a lot of people now where they hit a level of success and they leave the selling side of it, and they go all on the media side, and it's like not everyone might get to the point where that is hard to do. So then it's how do you marry the two together and be extremely successful at it, where you don't really need my advertising for you to be successful. You just need a really good office space, a brand that you believe that you can do well with your followers that you have, and then just kind of let you go, and I think that next frontier there is where we're going. I don't know if you ever have a full showroom of those folks, but the more you can have, I mean, it's just you cannot be a successful influencer and not sell 20 plus cars a month. Anything less than that, I wouldn't say that you're that successful, or you're a bad salesperson and you're really, like if they really go hand in hand, you're going to easily walk into 20 to 30 cars a month, and you're going to do it on your own time frame because you're not going to be dealing with the dealership's leads. You're going to be dealing with your own leads, and those leads are going to close so much better. Because those people, they have a relationship with you. They trust you.
Exactly. They build trust with you. Exactly. And to be clear, I totally agree with you. It's here already, but I meant it's here selectively, right? You still don't see it. It's not like every dealership has like, oh, this is our, content creator, our primary person. So I think that's where it's still evolving. The question is, how many automotive content creators can the market absorb, right? If you compare it today to 5 years ago, today there's tons. Again, it's not all equal, right? Some are, it's kind of like power law. I mean, you have some of these massive ones, and then you have lots of smaller ones. But that's the big question. How many automotive content creators can the market absorb? It's interesting. People love it. It's a very opaque thing. So consumers naturally gravitate to it, but the jury's out until, who cements themselves in that. And by the way, maybe the market can absorb a lot because the dealership is a pretty localized business. So maybe you kind of get to this situation where you have regional content creators serving all these different dealerships.
Yeah, I just think it loses potency when it starts to feel commercialized versus individualized. Because the individual feel of someone doing it because it's what they enjoy. They're naturally good at it because they're being like the thing about Russ Flips is this: he came and he trained our folks in Lafayette, and he's doing some more training for us in Chicago in the next couple of months. He walks us through what he does, but it doesn't mean I couldn't do what he does. I don't have his personality. I'll never be Russ, not because I don't want to be. That is where it all comes down to, that using your platform. Like he found a way to utilize his platform, the quirkiness of his personality, the way that he communicates, his look, the whole 9 yards. He encapsulated it, and he stands out because good luck being Russ. Like he'll tell you what he does. You won't be, and like you do the same thing. Like
he goes to the dealership every Sunday just to create content. He's there like all or half a day.
Yeah, go for it.
You got to do it.
Yeah, imitate him. Try. It doesn't. But if you imitate somebody else, that's what you are, though. Like you're not unique to yourself. Like I have a guy here after Russ Flips Whips trained. he's doing something. It's hilarious and it's working. He's doing something with Ring doorbells. So he goes up and he records himself, and it's normally his Ring doorbell, but he pretends to almost try to get in front of a customer, and they're hilarious. And so they're starting to trend a little bit, and he's starting to sell cars off of it. And it's like he was a good salesman, but I think he already is starting to see 2 or 3 cars sales a month now that he's attributing back to that, and it's like, there it is, and it's who he is, like he didn't go out and try to replicate someone else. He was like, I don't know. There's a naturalness to it of you can't be someone you're not. Like you got to be true to yourself, use your platform. And you know what? People might not like your platform and it might not work, but if people like what you're selling, you're going to probably be pretty successful at it. And that's just kind of where it's
Yeah,
at.
you got to find your tribe. You got to find your tribe, and you don't want everyone to like you. You want to, find the people that resonate with the content you create. So I couldn't agree more with you on there. Well, you guys are doing a really awesome job on that front. And it's been really a pleasure following that. Uh, Brian, before we wrap up, I want to talk just a little brass tacks. What are you seeing? Like, how is business, right? What is going on? Give us the full picture.
I think for us, business is good. I mean, I think that business is hard right now. I like it like this. I think that uh, you see really good dealers step up when business gets harder. And it's all the things that we were practicing during the pandemic. We never just sat back and just let it happen. We leaned into everything, and to the point of we're still seeing a lot of great success right now. But it's this constant drive towards following the best practice, and really going down to what we've talked this whole time about. It's customer experience, customer experience, customer experience. It's, there's so many places to buy Honda, Toyota, Lexus, Kia, Chevy, Ford, whatever. What makes us different than the dealer down the street? It's the experience. We'll all sell the cars for the same price. Like we got to stop making car deals about price. Like we stopped with that mentality a long time ago inside of our 4 walls. Now it's about the experience that you feel when you do it with us. And that's how you're going to win over and over and over again.
How are you combating affordability?
I mean, affordability is tough because we can't control the price of cars, right? And so we've seen car payment. I mean, we track the average payment that's going out today, and it's crazy. I mean, we're $600-700 on these cars. So it's hard to answer that question. I mean, we don't price gouge on anything, but I don't think a lot of dealers do anymore. I mean, the ones that are, I question why they're still doing that. I think more than anything, it's just, it's building that relationship with the customer and trying to find a good fit for them that 6 months from now, they're not going to regret that they ran into a salesperson and made a bad choice, and so it's really trying to build that rapport build the rapport in a timely fashion that the salesperson or the customer has no regrets about that purchase decision. But affordability is huge right now. I mean, I don't know directly how to answer that question just because it seems like the price of cars just keeps going up. And leasing, I just was talking with someone about leasing. I think we're seeing that come back slow but surely, but because leasing definitely lowers payments, but we're at 20% lease pen on new cars right now. So it's not what it once was. We used to flirt 50-60%. So even that's not back yet, at least in the brands that we have. So
when you say you're at 20% lease penetration, is that across your entire portfolio of brands?
Average. That's an average. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, and what brands are those?
We have 22 stores, and they're made up of Honda, Toyota, Lexus, Kia, Hyundai, Nissan, Infiniti, and we have one Volkswagen store. So we have multiples of a lot of those.
Ooh, you have the tail at your back for sure. The wind, the wind at your back. I mean, you're in pretty good shape across the board. So
Yep. Got great brands. I think another big thing that we were kind of going down this, we probably got sidetracked a little bit, but it's just the use of data. And so we're really forward thinkers on that too. I think there's only maybe 2 or 3 dealers that are working at the level that I'm at right now, I believe, in terms of launching a real vertical CDP. And we're utilizing a snowflake to do that too. Because, I think either before we started this or during it, we talked about like double entry a little bit. And so that's a killer in all DMSs, and you can't, as you market to that, you can't, you're paying for that, right? So at some level, you got to stop using your DMS as your marketing tool, or you're marketing bad data, whether they don't own that car anymore, or they moved, they don't live in that address, or that email address is bad and it's been bad, or, it's the same name 3 times and they get 3 pieces in the mail, or whatnot. So we partnered with Telium, and we're probably going to, it's a lot of effort, but we're going to launch that probably in the next 60 days. So it's been about a 4 to 5 month project to get that off the ground. But that I also believe is going to revolutionize the auto industry. No more of old school marketing of shotgunning or spray and pray advertising. It's going to be
very personalized
to where you will get marketing inside of your journey. So wherever you're at in your journey, you'll get a piece to help support you to the next. The cool thing about an auto and tender advertising, when you do it the right way, it's the goal is not to sell a car. It's to get you to the next part of your journey down the funnel, because then that kicks or fires the next part of your journey. And then you'll get another supporting piece that helps push you down further. And by the time you get to the point of wanting to pull the trigger, you'll realize we've been supporting you this whole time, and we're building rapport by giving you the information and not even asking for you to buy a car. We're just saying like, oh, this could be helpful. Or how about this? We noticed that you didn't finish this. Would this help? Right. And so I think it's super efficient. I think, CDPs in automotive are really new. CDPs in Fortune 500 have been around for 10 years, right? So it's not new in terms of new technology. It keeps getting better. But it's new in terms of what it's going to do to the automotive industry. And I do think that I think that it's the hardest project that I've ever bit off inside of automotive. I think that a lot of dealers like the idea, and as soon as they put their foot in it, they're going to say, no, it's not worth the effort. So I think it's going to be the next 2 to 3 years, I think are going to be very lucrative for early adapters. I think it'll probably take 4 to 5 years before you see a lot of mainstream people, or these CDP companies are going to have to make it a lot easier in terms of how you...
Easier to adopt the product and integrate into your operations?
Well, you got to remember, like, what makes a CDP work is audiences. It's an audience type. And there are legitimately unlimited audience types. Someone has to build these. So I have a data strategist that we hired. That's his only job, is to build audience types. Because once the audience types lives in the CDP knows how to go and put names in it. And once names start going into it, then it's all automated. You're getting the perfect message to the audience that you fell into at the right time.
I'm excited to follow your journey. I mean, you're doing some great things, and just pumped to see where you go from here. Ryan Rohrman, before we wrap up, any closing thoughts?
Man, it's been great. I'm excited to talk with you. I mean, I think that, I've been my early adaptation to social media. I followed you since basically day one. So it's been cool to see your journey, because you just blew up, as soon as I got on, and it's been fun. So it's neat to actually talk with you in person today. So thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. And
dude, this has been a ton of fun, man. Thank you for coming on. Thanks for following our journey. It's just definitely been just a grind day in and day out. And, we're having fun doing it. So we're just excited to, just demystify these conversations in our industry, which I think is really important. So we're very, very, very passionate about the overall mission. Ryan, also, thanks for coming on. We'll have to do this again because you're making some big waves. So I'm excited to see where you go.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on again. Appreciate it.
All right. Hope you enjoyed that episode. Please give the podcast a rating, consider subscribing to the show, and check the show notes for links to what we talked about. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you guys next time.